and I think impulse cast-ons are the best, honestly. So now I just cast on whenever I want. Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mathilde. I am a French beginner knitter and today is my knitting podcast number 8. Thank you for joining me today as I am going to talk you through one finished object, 3 whips and future plans that I want to cast on in not too distant future. If you're new here, hi and thank you so much for joining me. I know that a few of you have come from Two Pearls in a Pod podcast who have mentioned me a couple of times, so thank you for tuning in and subscribing. That means a lot. If you're not new here, then welcome back. If you're not subscribed already, I would really appreciate if you did. But otherwise, thank you for joining again. Let me know what you're gonna be knitting on while watching this podcast. But let's get started. The first object that I want to show you is a finished object, and that is my Norma sweater. This is a pattern by my favorite things, Knitwear. It was from the Isager Archives collection that came out, I want to say in February or March maybe, I don't exactly remember, but yeah, I just fell in love with the pattern and I really wanted to cast it on. This isn't blocked yet, so hopefully you don't mind. I've only just stemmed block it, but I don't think I'm really good at blocking my knits. I think I'm always too scared of like burning the yarn, so I don't get the steamer too close, but I knew it was just a temporary situation because I went away on holiday for a week. I was at my grandmother's house in Brittany, which is in the west of France. It was really lovely. I'll put up some clips maybe as I'm talking, but yeah, it was just so lovely to be there, and I finished this just the evening before leaving, so I really wanted to take this with me because Brittany can be pretty cold even in May. It's just very windy, so even if it's summer, and it can be quite warm when the sun hits, when it disappears behind the clouds it can get pretty chilly, so I knew that I could get a lot of wear out of this before actually starting the summer here in Paris. As you can see, I've not weaved in some ends in my sleeves, so I hope you don't mind. I do want to start wet blocking this today after the podcast, but I came back yesterday from my holidays quite late in the evening, and if I had put this to wet block, I think it would still be wet today before filming, so I just wanted to show it to you like this. I do have a project vlog coming about me knitting this sweater, so I'll get into more details about the pattern and everything in that vlog, and I'll definitely include some clips of the garment wet blocked as well. So I think this will come in about a week or two, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I am absolutely loving this. I'll include some b-rolls as well of me wearing it, because I don't think here you'll be able to see a lot. This is my first ever colorwork garment knitting, and what I mean by that is that I've started the Alder sweater as well, which I'll show you afterwards, which is a colorwork sweater, but it is a mosaic knitting, so I feel like it's a bit different because you never knit with 2 colors at the same time, whereas this one you do have a tiny bit of rounds where you knit 2 colors at the same time. This is obviously very simple colorwork, but that was just my me dipping my toes into colorwork for the first time before I dive into more complex knitting. Yeah, it is a top-down raglan design with some short row shaping at the back, which you can see here that the back is very, like the first stripe starts off a lot further down than in the front here. It is, so you start off by doing a tubular cast on, which I did do, and then you do the ribbing, then the raglan increases up until the point where you split the sleeves, and then you just knit. The sleeves have some decreases as well, and yeah, then some simple ribbing for the hem and the body. This is quite a deep raglan. I really like it. However, I don't think it suits me a lot. I think because of my boobs. I don't think raglans are the best, which I thought they were. So I've got a lot of raglans on my needles at the moment and in the not too distant future, I think. So I do want to still keep making them, but I don't think it's the best shape for me, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I do have some rowing out, which I don't know if you'll be able to see. It's like very minor, and I think this will go away once I wet block this. But otherwise, I think the colorwork is really good, because obviously it's not a whole lot of colorwork, it's not too tight or anything. Maybe it's actually a little bit too loose. We'll see when I do another colorwork sweater in the future. And then the one thing that I wanted to mention as well, which I will mention in the process vlog, but I wanted to show you, is because I don't think you can really see it in the project pictures, in the pattern pictures. There's a really pretty detail on the, I don't know if you can see that, on the sides of the body, as well as on the sleeve, actually around the point where you do the decreases. Basically it's just slipping some stitches every couple of rounds in order to create that. Yeah, so the pattern was really straightforward. I personally didn't notice any mistake, but that was for my size, which I think was size S. There is a bit of gaping for the sleeves, but that's just what I usually do. Is I pick up more stitches than mentioned in the pattern, and then I just decrease the round after I've picked up the stitches to accommodate for, like, to avoid that gap, but to still have the number of stitches required for the sleeve. But for some reason, for this pattern, I was just, I think, too overwhelmed with the colorwork, which it wasn't difficult, but it was just like the repeats of the stripes. I was just too focused on those, and so that was just a me mistake that I made, but that I wouldn't make again, I don't think. But I think it's still, it's fine. I'll fix them when I actually do weaving my ends later on today. And yeah, I'll talk about the yarn a little bit as well. This is, I used the recommended yarn for this, so you use one strand of Isager Tweed. This is in the colorway, I don't actually remember, raw white, and I held it with Isager Silk Mohair in the colorway 6, which creates this kind of mold effect, because they're obviously a bit different, but I think it looks really, really pretty. And then for the brown, I used Isager Tweed in the colorway Chocolate, held with Silk Mohair, again by Isager, in the colorway 60. Yeah, 60. As always, I'll put everything in the description down below, and you can definitely check out my Ravelry as well for some more details on my thoughts on the pattern and everything. And then for the red, I used Isager Tvinni in the colorway 33S. And yeah, all of these combined, I thought were really a great color palette for this. I really wanted a pop of color, so the red, but I didn't want a full red garment, so this is it. I think I'm going to wait until I wet block this and see how the yarn blooms, because I think because of the colour work I think the sleeves will lengthen a little bit, but right now they are a tiny bit too short for me, and the body as well. So I'll wait and see if blocking does its magic, and otherwise I might add some ribbing, but I think I'll just make the ribbing like 2 or 3 centimeters longer, same for the body, and I will call it a day. But I don't think I will do that right now. We'll see when I block it. So yeah. Last thing that I wanted to mention is about the color. So I followed the instruction for the mock neck color, but I think it's a tiny bit too long for my neck. I think my neck is actually a bit shorter than intended, so it's, when I put it on, it really hits like right here, and I don't really love that. So I've been folding it down like this, and I think it looks really pretty like that, and I actually do prefer it. But I don't want to sew it down because I think I like the possibility to pull it up if it's a bit colder. But yeah, I've been pulling it down. And then about the yarn, I really love the effect together. However, I think the first time I wore it, it was a little bit scratchy. I think it's a combination of, like, the Isager tweed is 70% merino. Oh no, 70% wool and 30% mohair, and then I held that with some mohair as well, so I think that's a little bit too much mohair for my skin, maybe. But then the second day I wore it, it didn't itch as much. I think only around the neck, and then maybe a little bit of the sleeves, but then I do have some ends that were kind of tickling me. So I think once I remove those it will be better, but yeah, just to mention, it was a little bit itchy for me. And that's it for the finished object. I think I'm really happy with it, and I think this was an impulse cast on, and I think impulse cast ons are the best, honestly. So now I just cast on whenever I want, which isn't the best, but I will then talk about my next whip. But before I do that, I just wanted to mention, if you've seen my previous podcast, you know that I've got a storm sweater on the needles as well. I won't be showing you that today because I've not actually touched it in a month. It will be back on active needles this weekend, but yeah, I've just been focusing on my Norma, which I did want to finish before it gets too warm outside. And then I've been focusing on my other whips, which I'll show you, but because I don't have any progress, I won't talk to you about that. But I will talk to you about my Alder sweater by Clow. This is my, too much yarn. I've put this on a stitch holder in order to try it on before filming, so it's just a little bit of a mess, but anyways. This is my Alder sweater by Clow. This is the mosaic knitting that I was talking about earlier, so if you've seen my previous podcast, you know. But this is a really pretty raglan design. I will put up some b-rolls of me trying it on. I tried it on last night quite late, so apologies for the poor quality. However, the neck is a bit too tight, and so it really hurts my ears when I put it on, so I don't think I'm gonna do that today. But yeah, I did try it on yesterday evening for the first time since splitting for sleeves and everything. But yeah, let me focus. Okay, since last time I have, if you've seen my previous podcast, you'll know that I had an issue with my row gauge being too short compared to the gauge that I was supposed to be on. So I followed the pattern for the raglan increases, and then I split for sleeves, did maybe 2 rounds on the body and then tried it on, and it was too tight, obviously, because I did have about a centimeter and a half to 2 centimeters off on my row gauge. So I went back, added, I want to say I added 2 or 3 more pattern repeats with raglan increases before splitting for sleeves again, and then continuing on the body. And I think that was the right move. It's maybe a little bit tight again, but this is a pattern that's supposed to have negative ease, so I think it will be fine. I think, however, the body I will make a little bit longer than mentioned in the pattern. She says to knit the body for 27 centimeters before starting the ribbing, I think, but I think that's going to be too short for me because of my boobs again. And then I added the collar as well, so that was really easy. I just picked the stitches as mentioned in the pattern, and I think it looks really pretty. But I always have that issue when I because you fold it down and then knit it together with the picked up stitches or picked up edge, it's just too tight. I don't know why, but it's just always too tight, even when I like make a conscious effort for it not to be too tight, it still is. So I think for my sweater number 18 I didn't have that issue, but I think that was only because I forgot to bind off as I was knitting it together with the picked up stitches, so I did it the round after basically, and that meant that it was a bit too tight the first few times I tried it on, but then it really loosened up and now it's fine. So maybe I should do that. I've heard some people say that they usually change needle size as well, so maybe I'll try that next time. But yeah, I can put it on, but it is hard and it really hurts, so hopefully it will loosen up after a while, because as you can see, like, I can stretch this a lot but it's still really tight, so I don't know. Yeah, and then so I'm just gonna keep on knitting on the body. I don't think I will necessarily have a lot of progress to show you next time, because this is taking a while. Like, I put a stitch marker on here. The grey one is when I left for my holidays, and like this is like the amount I did, so like maybe 4, maybe 5 centimeters I did whilst I was on holiday. The next stitch marker is, I'm trying to see how much centimeters one full pattern repeat takes, or like how, like if it's 1 centimeter or 1.5, to gauge how much more pattern repeats I'm gonna have to make. But yeah, it takes a while, but I don't want to rush this. I just want to take my time and enjoy it. So if it takes a while, that's fine by me. But I'll talk quickly about the yarn before I move on. So the yarn I am using for this project is Pénélope by Rerum Natura. The blue is the colorway Brume and the white is Orgeat. This is a DK weight yarn, which is, I always forget, but it is 90% wool and 10% silk. And it's really lovely and soft, and I cannot wait for my sweater to be finished to actually wear it and see how it feels on my skin. But I think this is going to be really lovely. So yeah, and I don't think it's going to be too warm, so hopefully for like the spring and fall it's going to be a nice sweater to have. But probably not for this spring. But that's fine. I started this on the 10th of February, so it's been on my needles for more than 3 months, but that's fine. I am, however, using a needle size bigger, so the pattern recommends using a 3.75mm needle, and I'm using a 4mm needle, just a tiny bit bigger. The next pattern that I've got to show you is my Moonset Tee by Ozetta, which I've made a lot of progress on. I'll include some B-rolls as well of me trying it on. I've not actually tried it on in a while, so we'll see what that looks like, but this is what it's looking like. This is a top-down drop shoulder t-shirt with this really pretty neck detail, which I really love. And this construction was really great. I really loved it. I've got about 25 centimeters on the body, and the pattern recommends doing 31 centimeters, I think. I will film the B-roll after this actually, because I've not done it yet. So I've not tried it on, and I don't know if the length, like how much more length I want. So we'll see how many centimeters I do end up adding, but I really love this. Yeah, so the interesting thing about this pattern construction, if I can remember, because I feel like it's been a while, you start with the back. So you cast on stitches here, and then you do the back panel as you usually do with a drop shoulder design, with increases along the edge, and then you pick up the stitches for the left front. But the particularity about this design is that you knit this as well together. So you actually start in the middle here, you knit a few rounds of this neck edge, and then you start the front panel and you pick up those stitches that you had put aside, and then you keep going knitting the neck edge and the front panel together. You then do the same thing for the right panel, so you start in the middle here and knit down. This is hard to show. Knit down, and then once you've actually reached the point in the pattern mentioned, then you combine them here, and then you also do a kitchen stitch here, which my kitchen stitch isn't very neat, but it's in the back, so hopefully it won't show too much. And then as you can see, you've got a gap here. You're supposed to, I think it's a vertical seam that you're supposed to make at the end, which I haven't done yet. I think I will do it once I've finished the body before doing the sleeves. But yeah, I'm really loving this. This is really pretty. I love the yarn. This is very drapey. This is using a French hand-dyed, which I apologize, but I've kind of messed up winding it up into a skein. So it looks like absolute rubbish, but this is, I want to say, 70% baby alpaca, no, I think it's 80% baby alpaca, 10% silk and 10% cashmere, and this is in the colorway Nuit. I don't think I mentioned the yarn. This is Caresse Fingering by L'Atelier Teinture, a French hand dyer. I purchased 2 skeins in October last year. These are 100 gram for 400 meters, and I've used 1 skein, but as you can see I've got loads of the second one. I only just joined the second one, I want to say like maybe 5 centimeters on the body, so I think I'll have plenty left for the sleeves. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna knit 1 sleeve up until the length that the pattern says, put the stitches on hold, do the second sleeve, and then I'll gauge and see if I want to make it longer sleeves or if I want to just follow the pattern and then use whatever amount I have left for something else. I'm not sure what, maybe a bralette I would be able to make with this, we'll see. But I think I want this to be a t-shirt. I don't think I want this to be long sleeves, but it would be really stunning as a long sleeve. I think Ozetta has a moonset pullover as well, which looks really nice. But yeah, so I'm really excited about this. This is kind of my focus for the next few weeks. I do want to finish this, which I think I will be able to, even though it is on 3.5mm needles. That's the needle that I'm using, but I think it's probably supposed to be 3mm needles, but I'm a tight knitter. So it does take a while, but I'm really happy with this. The progress that I made whilst I was on holiday, so you can see I've got the first stitch marker is the first day I left for my holiday. I don't know, can you see that? And then the second one is when I was leaving yesterday for the train, so that's all that I did whilst on the train. So that's like maybe 3 centimeters, maybe 4. Not a whole lot in like a 3-hour train ride. Also, one thing that I want to mention is that I am using 2 skeins of hand-dyed yarn, and I was really scared of having, well, actually I wasn't really scared, but I heard a lot of other podcasters mention that when using hand-dyed skeins you're supposed to if you want, you should be careful about the skeins and maybe do some, I think it's called illegal knitting, or just using different skeins at different points in order to avoid, you know, for example, having too many speckles in one spot and then not a whole lot in the rest of the body of the sweater, for example. So I did have that in mind when I was using that hand-dyed yarn, but first of all, this is my first time using hand-dyed yarn, so I was like, I'm just gonna knit and see, and like if I have a clear line between the 2 skeins, then that will be that, and that's fine. I don't think I do. Maybe when I'll watch this back as I edit, I will be able to see a line, or if you do, let me know. But I don't think I would change anything about that either way. I will be more careful in the future for like sweater projects and stuff with hand-dyed yarn, but for that one I was just like, I'm just gonna knit and we'll see. And then the next project that I want to talk about is wasn't supposed to be a cast on, but yeah. It all started with a purchase that I made. So a couple of weeks ago, I want to say a week or 2 ago, I went to a Parisian yarn shop called Little Weasel. I made a video about it a while ago where I visited it, so I'll put that up here somewhere if you want to see. But yeah, I wanted to go in order to buy some yarn, some mohair to go along with a yarn that I had purchased actually in that video that I just mentioned, which is a fingering from the fiber company, the Cumbria fingering, I think, which I want to use later on in the year to make a pullover, I think. But anyways, I just wanted to purchase the mohair, or like to see if they had a mohair that would go along with the colorway, just to see, and then to buy it if I found the right colorway, and then that way I would have in my stash the full sweater quantity, and I could just cast on whenever I felt like it. Whereas now I just got the fingering, and so I'm just, if I want to cast it on, then I've got to wait a little bit more until I can. Anyways, so I went to the yarn shop and I had taken 1 skein of that fingering weight yarn, and I just couldn't find a mohair that would go along with it. And then someone in the shop helped me see the mohair that could potentially go along with it, but I didn't really like them. And then, so basically the shop is in 2 separate areas, so they're like in front of each other, or like face to face, I don't know. So I was in one and she told me like maybe go on the opposite side to see if they've got a hand-dyed mohair that could work. So I did, and then again I didn't really like the colour. The skein that I've got, it's kind of a light beige grey, and I really like the colour and I want something that will go along with it but that won't distract too much from that colour. And the mohair that they were showing me were just a bit too yellow and I didn't really like that. Anyways, I felt bad for asking too much of the time, so I just kept looking again, and then I looked at a mohair that wouldn't be able to go with the yarn that I was going to purchase, something to go with that. I don't think my sentence makes sense, but you know what I mean. And I didn't really want to purchase anything other than the one that I was going to that shop for, but I did end up purchasing some Filcolana Tilia. So anyway, long story short, I purchased this colorway. This is 340, or I think it's called Ice Blue. This is Tilia by Filcolana, which is a 70% kid mohair and 30% silk. I bought 7 skein, I think. Yeah, anyways, I bought a lot. And because I hadn't meant to go there to purchase anything, the only pattern that was in my mind as I was watching this beautiful color was the Cumulus Blouse by Petite. So I made a swatch with that yarn. I sized up in needle size as I usually do with Petite patterns. This is using 4.5, no, this is using 5mm needles, so I think the pattern is 4.5mm. So it's quite see-through, but I don't really mind. I asked on Instagram if I should bring 1 or 2 whips and if I should bring some yarn to cast something new, and most people voted for taking 2 whips, and then like 45% said 2 whips and yarn to cast something on, so I just did that. And I cast on the Cumulus Blouse, and this is everything that I've got. So I've actually finished to make the raglan increases and the increases for the v-neck. So yeah, anyway, this is a mohair top down raglan v-neck blouse. Can I do that somehow? Yeah. I've put it on stitch markers because I needed to change the cable anyway. But this is about what it's gonna be looking like. I do have to put it back on a cable, obviously, and then I've got to join in the round. I don't think we're gonna be able to see a lot, but I've got to join in the round, and then I've got to do a couple more rounds with the raglan increases and then split the sleeves already, which is wild. I know this is on 5mm needles, but even so, I feel like it just flew by. But I really love the fabric. I think it's really, really pretty. So I'm really excited about this. This is again kind of an impromptu cast on. Originally I wanted to finish at least I think 2 or 3 whips before casting something new on, but first of all, my Alder sweater takes a while. I haven't touched my storm sweater, so I knew I wouldn't be able to finish it. My moon settee is on fingering, so it takes a while as well. And I did finish my Norma sweater, so I was like, I think I need something new. And this is gonna, I feel like it's gonna be really quick to knit. I think it's gonna be really stunning. It's really light and airy. The pattern is obviously very popular, very, I don't know, like very easy to throw on, I feel. And for some reason this design reminds me of a sweater that my mom had, that I've got now in my wardrobe, but I just can't wear it because it's too big for me. So it just looks like I'm wearing my, I don't know, I'm just a potato sack in it. Or it's just a potato sack on me, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to cast it on, and I'm really happy I did, and I cannot wait to finish it. So, you know, just a knitter's life, casting things on here and there. Also, one of the reasons why I did want to cast this on is because I'm waiting for a pattern by NovemberKnits, which is called the Dew Sweater Light, which is also a 2-stranded mohair raglan sweater that I'm planning to use my La Bien Aimée Kumo, which is 74% baby suri and 26% mulberry silk. I've got 3 skeins. I think I might need to purchase one more skein. But once that pattern is out and once I finish my Cumulus blouse, this is gonna be on my needles because this is just too pretty. And maybe I won't be able to wear it this summer, but you know what? I just want to cast it on. So I'm waiting for the pattern impatiently. I think she's going to release it mid-May maybe, so I'm really excited about that. And then the next, so we are on to the plans now, in case you hadn't noticed. The next pattern that I want to cast on is also a pattern that I'm waiting for, and it's not a garment for me, it's a garment for one of my best friends. If you've seen my knitting intentions and make 9 video at the start of the year, I mentioned that I was gonna make a garment for my best friend. She wanted the Clow cardigan by, there's 2 versions, there's one by Lichen brand which is free, and then one by Aimée, which is not free, which is, what do you call that? Which is paid, which is a paid pattern, but she has more sizes, so I like that more. However, I wasn't really feeling that pattern. I just wasn't excited to make it because it's a pattern that you knit flat. So you do the front panel, because it's a cardigan, you do 2 front panels and then the back panel and then the sleeves that you do flat, and then you seam everything together, and I just don't know, I just didn't want to do it. So I asked her if she would be okay with me showing her a few more designs that I was more excited to knit, because it's gonna take me a while. It is a cabled cardigan, so like I told her, first of all, don't expect a deadline on it because I don't know how long it's gonna take me, and second of all, I do want to like what I'm knitting on, and I want to be excited for it, otherwise I'm just never gonna be able to finish it. So she was like, yeah, absolutely, like I don't even really care what garment you make me, I just want something made by you, which was so lovely. And so I showed her the book club cardigan by Sarah Nordland, which personally I fell in love with, and I kind of want to make one for myself, but I'll make one for her and just pretend it's for me while I'm knitting on it, so that it just gives my motivation, hopefully. But yeah, it's just a stunning cardigan. It's obviously not the same as the folklore cardigan, but it kind of has the same vibes, and I told her if she wanted I could make the modifications for it to resemble the folklore cardigan more, so like the stripes in the ribbing, the black, I think she wants green, but I could incorporate that easily in the book club cardigan. So I'm gonna make that. The pattern is coming out mid-May, I think, so not too long now. and I do want to purchase some drops yarn for that, because this is going to be a gift. I'm gonna buy the yarn and knit it and then gift the whole thing to my friend. She doesn't have to purchase anything, so in order for it to not be too expensive, and also just because I want to try some drops yarn that I've never tried before, I thought this was the perfect opportunity for me to do so, and if I like it I could definitely see myself buying some more. I think I'll only buy the yarn for that cardigan for now, and then I'll see later on if I want to buy more. But if you've got any suggestions for a drops yarn that's best suited for a cabled garment, I think the pattern is supposed to be a DK or a sport weight held with a lace weight, so I guess a worsted weight garment, I think. So if you've got any suggestions for what yarn I could use, I would really appreciate it. I do want the cables to pop, so I want to choose a yarn that's good for that. I think I read that Charisma was pretty good, but I'm not sure. So if you've got any suggestions, I would really appreciate it. And otherwise, I think that's it for today. In the next few weeks, I do want to finish my Moonset tea, hopefully move on quite quickly with my Cumulus blouse, and then I want to have my storm sweater back on the needles. I want to knit the collar and then finish the body at least, and then we'll see. And also wet block my Norma, which I should really do. So yeah, I think that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining again. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I will post I think 2 more videos before my next podcast, so I hope you tune in, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!